Okay, so here's another clue that Plato shares with us. So Atlas was the man. He was in charge. The island and the sea were both named after him, called Atlantic. So his twin brother obtained as his lot the extremity of the island toward the Pillars of Heracles, facing the country, which is now called the region of Gades in that part of the world. So the region of Gades was named after Atlas's twin brother, Gadeirus. So let's take a look. Here's our Mediterranean. So here is Gades, which is the modern name for Gades. And back then, there was a whole region called Gades that was named after Atlas's brother. So Plato, over here by Athens, was aware of the area of the region of Gades, which is around here. And he said Gadeirus obtained as his lot the extremity of the island toward the Pillars of Heracles, facing the country which is now called the region of Gades. So we want to look for a continent-sized island that would be pointing toward the region of Gades. And out of all these selections we chose before, including the continents over here and there, I would say things this far away you would not call pointing at any one particular spot. They're just too far away. At least that's how I see it. How do you see it? This interesting mass right here does seem to have, if it was an above land mark, does seem to have an extension here that we could almost say does reach out toward this region. So if this was the land mass, perhaps this was the section that was given to Gadeirus by Atlas. There are other things we could look at, but they're not continent-sized islands. They're just too small, as we pointed out previously. Perhaps Dodgerland, the old Dodgerland, which was all of this land above water, all connected together, well, it's actually one full land mass. So it would actually include Gades rather than point to Gades. The only other possibility, and remember once again, that a continent-sized island basically means a possible huge continent, or small continent, perhaps. So if we looked at this as perhaps Atlantis, some portion of this here that was cut into 10 regions, then this would fit very well in this area here as the extremity of the island of Atlantis that reaches out toward Pillars of Heracles and toward the region of Gades. So at that point it narrows us down, but we still want more proof. There's another concept I was thinking about that I wonder if you all might find interesting. I was thinking about how a lot of times in mythology, mankind really liked to personify many things that affected his everyday life. For instance, he'd say, if the sea treated him badly, he'd say the gods of the sea did this. Or if a volcano treated them badly, they'd say the gods of the volcano did that. You know, we have the story about Poseidon having twin children, 5 sets of twins, and he gives more information about those first 2 twins than anyone else. Of course, more so Atlas, but more information about Gadeirus than anyone else also. So I thought about, if Poseidon represents the sea, why did the concept of twins come up? So then I tried to think about geological landmarks that might make us come up with a story of twins. And that's when it hit me. The pillars. Pillars would be looked at as twins. So based on what we just learned about the region of Gades, the whole thing kind of came together in my mind as just something interesting. Let's take a look. Let me know if I'm going crazy here, but the sea, Poseidon, gives birth to twins, twin pillars. One's name is Atlas. Atlas Mountains are here. One's name is Gadeirus. The region of Gades is here. I don't know. I just think that's a fascinating concept. Let me know what you guys think. But if we do think that that concept makes some sense, then it gives us more argument that this could be the continent of Atlantis. Remembering once again that Plato said the sea was impassable in his day. Don't know if he meant completely impassable or not, but it seems to add some credence to the possibility that they only knew the story of Atlantis, but were really not easily able to come out and explore that idea, and therefore that most of their discoveries of the land masses were done from the land within the Mediterranean Sea, perhaps. Just a thought. Now here's something I found really interesting. Moreover, there were a great number of elephants in the island, for as there was provision for all other sorts of animals, both for those which live in lakes and marshes and rivers, and also for those which live in mountains and on plains. The thing I wanted to point out was the one specific animal of all the animals that they talked about, there was only one they mentioned, and that's because there was a great number of them, and that's elephants. So I thought maybe we would just go do a quick Google search to see where elephants live in the world, mainly. So doing a quick Google search, I looked for a world map of where elephants live. Now, yes, this is where they live today, but I personally can't imagine that the elephants went from everywhere to one place over the last thousands of years. I could certainly understand elephants going from one place and spreading to more places. Now that would make sense. But I kind of imagine myself that where elephants are today is possibly where they were thousands of years ago. So, in the maps we see elephants in, looks like South Africa. So here's another little map showing Africa. Parts of, looks like Asia, India, perhaps. Africa seems to be the main place. So there you go. Fascinating. So it looks like we have another vote for Africa, the continent of Africa. So now the question we want to ask is, did this desert used to be a livable environment where Atlantis could have been a thriving place? Well, we go to this website here called paleodeserts.com, and we do see the red spots there, I believe, indicate places that scientists have looked for fossils and things like that. And the rest is a map of rivers and lakes that may have been active around that time. And I read somewhere else that, I can't find it right now, but that sometime between 10,000 and 5,000 BC, the desert started getting a lot of rainfall, that rainfall rising up during that time period and then starting to diminish. And I believe I read that around 5000 BC is when it started getting less livable. But there definitely was a time when there was rivers everywhere and lakes, and this was a green and extremely livable area. So when we talk about Atlantis, there are really two separate concepts. One is, of course, the entire island/continent that's bigger than Libya and Asia put together. But the Atlantis that most people think of is the main city of Atlantis, which is in the best part of the continent of Atlantis. It is one of the 10 zones separated out to the 10 brothers. It is the very unique circular ringed city where sits the main throne of the king of the entire continent, and that is Atlas. So let's see how the city, the circular ringed city, is described by Plato. Now, the largest of the zones into which a passage was cut from the sea was 3 stadia in breadth, and the zone of land which came next of equal breadth. But the next 2 zones, the one of water, the other of land, were 2 stadia, and the one which surrounded the central island was a stadium only in width. The island in which the palace was situated had a diameter of 5 stadia. So just to keep things simple, let's Google Atlantis city description. So according to Plato's text, the center island was about 5 stadia wide. The ring of water that surrounded it was only a stadia wide. The next 2, land and water, were each 2 stadia in width. Then the last land and water ring were each 3 stadia in width. So based on our description that we've learned so far, we're going to find this city, which is in the center of the island, within the large flat plain, also in the center of the island.